What's up, everybody? I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2021 Toyota Venza. So the Venza is back here for 2021 after about a 5 or 6 year hiatus. It is back now, and it is a nicer version of the RAV4 Hybrid, essentially. It has the same mechanicals as a RAV4 Hybrid. Very similar as far as platform and stuff, but it does have some distinct differences. It is a little bit longer, and there's some other stuff we'll get to in a minute, which interestingly differentiates this from the RAV4. But I mean, overall, I think the interior is a nice change. It's definitely completely different than a RAV4. And I think it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it definitely looks really nice. It has some really nice touches to it. It's definitely great.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that, they were kind of a little bit more bolder with this. They were able to take a little more chances than they did with the RAV4, because the RAV4 has to appeal to the hundreds of thousands of the masses that, end up buying those every year. This could be a little bit more daring. You can see that, Toyota had a little more fun in designing this interior, I think. Because, I mean, you have these copper accents. They got rid of volume and tune knobs, which is a bold move. That I'm not in love with, but I respect them for taking that leap. And, just the color choices here. You have this blonde wood trim, which actually looks pretty cool. I still can't tell if it's real wood or not, though, because it kind of looks convincing, but I don't know, it feels a little plasticky.
Yeah, it definitely feels plasticky to me. And at first glance, when I first got in this car, I don't know, I thought it was fake. And I think it's just because it's the blonde wood. It feels nice, but it's definitely not like up to quality of, a luxury car or something like that.
Yeah, that's for sure. This is definitely a far cry from actual luxury car, wood interiors and stuff. But it is a nice improvement over like the RAV4s, which I don't believe you can even get a wood appearance in. So it feels a little classier in here than a RAV4 for sure. I mean, even like the little metal finishers you have here on the stitching and stuff are kind of nice. And so anyway, first thing though, sitting down in these seats in the Venza, they're very comfortable. I like the design of the stitching here, is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're super comfortable. Once again, for the passenger side, you don't have very many movable parts. I cannot move up and down, and the farthest I can move back definitely doesn't seem like it's very far. I feel like I'm kind of in a cockpit style seating right now because of how the dashboard is set up. Overall, I think I'm just kind of really close to the dash. It just feels like I'm a little bit too tight in here, and I can't move any farther back than I am right now. So just kind of strange to me, but that's okay.
Yeah, and so that also goes back to these design changes they made here with the Venza, because like, for example, this like comes out way further, and in the RAV4 that's like flat. So like that probably makes you feel a little more closed in because that's coming at you. And actually, as far as the numbers go, there's less interior volume than the RAV4. So, it actually feels a little tighter in here than a RAV4. The back seat also suffers with that same thing, where it's a little bit of a tighter back seat than a RAV4. The cargo space is also smaller than a RAV4. So even though this is technically a little bit bigger exterior-wise than a RAV4, it's actually, on the inside here, a little tighter feeling, which is strange.
Yeah, so if you do like feeling, comfy, cozy in your little pocket of space, then this is for you.
Yeah, as long as you're okay not having super, good amounts of space. And that's kind of one weird thing. This is priced like a mid-sized SUV. So this is priced like the Honda Passport, the Hyundai Santa Fe, even the Kia Sorento that we just reviewed is like the same pricing as this. And it's like the Kia Sorento, like not only was it a more luxurious interior, but it was way more space. You had a third row in the Sorento and all that for the same money. And that's kind of one of the problems of the Venza, is they priced it like a mid-sized SUV and then sized it like a compact SUV. And unless you love the RAV4 formula, but you just want more luxury, but you don't want a Lexus, that's kind of the niche where the Venza sits, and it's kind of a tough niche to justify. The driver's seat does go up and down though, and so that's nice. You also have lumbar adjustment. So I feel comfortable in my seating position here. They're also heated and cooled seats in these top trims of the Venza as well, which is a nice touch. Yeah, I mean, they're comfortable seats. Just, again, goes back to I wish there was just more adjustability there for the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And that's not just Toyota either. That's a lot of companies.
Yeah, it's really just beginning to become the standard in most of these cars, which I don't really think was a good idea, because once again, I feel like I'm sitting up super high. I am not a tall person. I'm only 5'5", and I just feel like I am really close to the roof. It's weird.
Yeah. So that is one thing the Sorento did have, the adjustable passenger seat.
It did, yes.
Another point for that new Sorento. But anyway, moving on from the seats, steering wheel here in the Venza is great. It's identical to a RAV4 steering wheel, so and also many other Toyotas for that matter. So it's a great wheel though. It has a nice 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches, just a few buttons here on the wheel, very easy to understand and find all the buttons you want to use and everything. And so no complaints there. The gauges here are also very similar to a RAV4 Hybrid. They just have a different font for the gauges, but it has the same bones where you have, since this is hybrid, they have the little eco and power gauge there on the left instead of attack. Right hand side you have your speedometer, and then you have a nice large, I believe it's a 7-inch color display there in the middle, and it is pretty nice. I really like how you can have a power meter, so it'll show you when the battery's assisting you and whenever you are kicking on the gas engine and stuff. That's cool. It'll of course also show you your fuel economy, trip information, audio information, and those types of things in there. And so I really like these gauges. One thing, if you want even more of a high-tech experience here in the Venza, is that you can get an optional head-up display. This one has that option, and it's a very nice looking head-up display, and it can show you a bunch of different things. It's pretty high resolution, pretty large, and colorful, and I really like the way that's set up as well. So that's a nice little thing if you want to feel even more high-tech here in the Venza. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, arguably one of the best things about the Venza is that you have this big, like 10-inch touchscreen infotainment system. And this is the same one you get in the Toyota Highlander. Those are the only two that have this screen currently. And it's the best screen the Toyota has, not only just because it's the biggest, but also just the way the graphics look. It's a little nicer than some of the other Toyotas. And I just love how you can slide things around. So you can have, this little thing here on the left. It'll show you your torque split. It'll show you your climate control, seat controls, all that kind of stuff. But then if I don't want to mess with this stuff, I can send it over to her side, and then she can mess with that and do all that. And or you can make it full screen if you want. You can really customize this as much as you want. So if you like having the audio close to you, you can. And that certainly helps this to feel like less of a reach, because the things you don't use all the time can be way over on the other side. And like navigation, I never use, so that's over there, and you can kind of have it out of the way. But it's nice to still have it on the display there. And so it also does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It is not wireless, unfortunately, here for 2021 yet, even though some other companies are making that wireless in 2021. But on top of this nice screen, one thing that the Venza does have is Toyota's nicest stereo system. So as of right now, this is the top stereo you can get in any Toyota. It is a JBL 9-speaker system, so it's not a ton of speakers, but it's 1,200 watts. And so, we listened to it a little bit. We mostly listened to radio and stuff, so we didn't really get a good sample of the best that this thing can do. But I did listen to some Apple CarPlay music in here earlier in the week, and it sounds good. I still don't think the JBL systems are top-notch, considering some of the other competitors offer Bose systems, like the new Sorento, for example, and there's some others out there. But it is still a very good stereo, and I'm not an audiophile, so I can't nitpick it. It sounded very good, and I think most people will be pretty happy with it, and so it's nice that they give you that. Coming down to the climate controls here in the Venza, this is all very new and kind of a little more cutting edge for Toyota than usual. So you'll see that there's these capacitive touch buttons for volume and for tuning, and some people are going to miss the knobs. It is harder to use than having volume and tune knobs, just because you have to tap them multiple times instead of just one motion of turning something. But once you have your presets in, I don't think it's a big deal for tuning. And then as far as volume, you do have an actual physical volume rocker here on the steering wheel, so as a driver you can use that, and it's not a big deal. The passenger can actually focus on touching that if they need to. So I don't think it's terrible. It's definitely not the easiest. I still would be totally fine if they just had two little knobs there instead of those buttons. But it does go and flow nicely with all these other shortcuts you see here for like the home button and all your climate controls there. Overall, I think it's pretty cool looking in that whole area. But one thing that is a little strange is having the power button over here just at this like individual pod, because I kept like looking over here in a normal spot for an engine start button. To have it like in the cubby here is a little bit of a strange placement in my opinion, and a little bit out of character with everything else in the way this looks. But then moving on to the storage spaces here in the Venza, it is I'd say average for the segment, certainly not best in class, depending on what segment you're talking about. But even compared with the RAV4, you have a little bit less storage space. I mean, you do have a decent decent sized pocket in the door here with a bottle holder. And in the middle here, you have, you'll see first off a little bit of a cover for your 2 USB jacks and an auxiliary jack in there. You also see a wireless charging pad here.
And with the wireless charging pad, I feel like it's nice that it's there. However, it is so far back there. If I have my seat all the way back, which once again isn't that far back, I still can't really reach if I were to put my phone over there. It's like a very long reach for me to get over there. And also I have to maneuver around the shifter, which once again is like, why is that there? Why is it all the way back there? It just, to me, seems like it's a little bit off. But if you like your wireless charger, you can work around it.
Yeah, and I guess if you like it tucked out of the way, that's good. But yeah, it's like, I mean, I get that from a design standpoint, they're like, you know, there's no really other place to put it, but it's just, yeah, it's not the best placement for a wireless charging pad for sure. I wish they would have maybe relocated these few other buttons here. But a brief aside from the storage spaces here, I do really love this ambient lighting you have that kind of glows on the wood here and, you know, flows in with the stitching and stuff. This is really, I think, beautiful the way they designed this with the metal on the edges and stuff. It's a really attractive design. And so even though it's not the best use of space, it's not the best utilitarian setup, I think it does look very nice. But coming back to these cup holders here, you have the 2 of them. I like the nice little metal trim ring on them, and they do have this little removable portion, which was a little confusing to me because they're like totally fine cup holders.
Yeah, but it says no long, which means when you do take it out, you can put in your long water bottles and drinks, just like that.
Yeah, so nice that they give you that flexibility. I would just take those out though and always have a deep cup holder. Like, I don't get why they just didn't have deep cup holders for everything, you know?
Well, but if you get like a super small drink or something like that, like a mini drink or a Blizzard or something,
yeah,
you can fit it a little bit easier so you're not losing it down in there.
I gotcha. I guess it's a nice touch. But anyway, and then moving beyond that, you have this center armrest, which is super soft and foamy. It just feels really nice. And then anyway, you open that up, and then you will see another little interesting spot here where I guess you can, it's a removable tray, but I guess it's like extra cup holders as long as you're not driving around because these are super shallow.
It also says no cup holder on it. So.
But then it's cut out like a cup holder. So like, what else do you use this for if not for cups?
Yeah, this is very confusing. We don't get it. Toyota, tell us what this means. We don't know.
So that's an interesting thing, but if nothing else, it's a nice little extra cubby, I suppose. But then you can remove that and you'll see a traditional power outlet in there and a pretty nice size space there. That space, though, is a little bit smaller, I believe, than the RAV4 space. And it's also worth noting that the RAV4 also has a bunch of extra little bonus spaces. Like you have a little shelf thing here in the dashboard. And it's also worth noting that, again, whenever you're comparing this to other mid-sized SUVs, stuff like the Kia Sorento has more space. Even the Honda Passport, I mean, that has a ton of space. You have like a massive bin. It's like minivan levels of space in the Passport. I mean, there is so much in that. And so I think, you know, as far as cargo space goes and storage space here up front, it's not great here either. But, you know, it is what it is. Again, you're clearly buying this because you don't want a RAV4 and you want something a little more stylistic. And so hopefully, you know, people are okay with that compromise. I will say one little thing that is nicer than a RAV4 is that you have more padding by your knees here than you have in a RAV4. I think that's just hard plastic in RAV4s, and so it's not super plush, but it is a little bit of give there, feels a little nicer. But anyway, moving on to the back seat here in the Venza. It still is a decent amount of space, so I'm 5'9", sitting behind myself. I still have about maybe 3 to 4 inches of legroom to spare back there. It's not tight unless you're going to be super tall or something, or you have a super tall driver here, but I don't have any complaints with the space back there, but it is a tiny bit less than a RAV4. It is still comfortable though, and one nice thing is you have this Stargaze moonroof, which is super sweet, one of the coolest features here of the Venza, I think. And so it goes from opaque to clear with just a push of a button, and this is technology that you really only see in stuff like Mercedes S-Classes. McLarens have this. This is really, I think, the only thing under $100,000 that has this type of a roof, and it is super cool and a really nice feature, especially if you do sit in that back seat to be able to gaze up at that. But I really like it. I think that, you know, the only thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't remember that I want to actually have it open. So it always defaults every time you start up to the opaque setting, and then, you know, I have to constantly hit this to then be able to actually see what's above me. But so I wish it did remember that, but aside from that, I think it's pretty cool. Also in that back seat, when you look forward, you'll see dedicated air vents, which is a nice touch, and also 2 more USB jacks back there. There's also bottle holders in the doors, and there's a fold down center armrest as well with 2 cup holders built into it and a nice little armrest. And so, I mean, as far as the back seat goes, it's nice. I don't have any complaints with that, but it is, again, going to be a little bit less space than the RAV4 and also all those mid-sized, larger competitors for the same money. So just one little thing to note there. Then moving on to the cargo space here in the Venza, that is another area where it's smaller than a RAV4. It's not terrible. It still has a good amount of space back there. So nothing to really complain about, but just by the numbers, technically it is a tiny bit smaller. And of course you have more of a slope to that rear window, so that also is, I think, a lot of what cuts into that instead of the more flat hatch of a RAV4. But it still has a good amount of space back there. There isn't any kind of space beneath the floor there or anything. You just have a spare tire there, which is nice that they have that included. But otherwise, you know, just a good amount of space. You also will see your subwoofer back there too. But yeah, I mean, it's totally fine. It's also a power tailgate, and it does have the kick to open feature as well, which is always hit or miss in basically any vehicle that has that feature. And so, but you know, nothing to be super excited about, but that is something that is included here. And the last little thing I also want to mention that's in the hatch area is the camera for the camera rearview mirror, which is one other touch that you get here on these limited Venzas, and that is a very nice thing to have. It actually works a little bit better than a lot of the other camera rearview mirrors that sometimes get dirty and stuff because they're on the outside of the vehicle. This one actually being on the inside is protected from the elements, and so even with that rear window being a little salty and stuff, it still has a totally clear view, doesn't look messed up at all on the display here, and is a really well done camera rearview mirror. One other little thing I wanted to mention that I really appreciated about the Venza though is that the heated steering wheel, which you do get here on this limited trim, has a switch to it, and so the switch actually remembers its position, and when you push it in, it actually stays in, and so you can drive the entire winter with your heated steering wheel on and never have to be constantly hitting that button again. And the steering wheel gets warm, but it never gets so hot that I feel like I need to turn it off, so it's really nice to be able to not have to fiddle with that every time you get in the car. But yeah, so that's all our thoughts here on the Venza. Overall, I think it's a nice interior as long as you're okay with the amount of space you have. I think it's one of those vehicles you got to just go to the dealership, sit in it, make sure that your passenger is comfortable and you're comfortable, that it's enough space for you. If it is, and you know you're looking for just a slightly nicer RAV4 Hybrid, you know this is only, I'd say, about $1,500 more expensive than a comparably equipped RAV4 Hybrid. So you know if you're paying extra $1,500 for the bigger screen, the nicer looks, the you know cool stargaze you know moonroof here and stuff, if you're okay paying a little bit of a premium for that stuff, you know, then this could make some sense. It's just whenever you look beyond Toyota though into all the other stuff you can get for $43,500 or even $40,000, you know, there's a lot of bigger stuff with, you know, V6s and all that. But if you're wanting good fuel economy, this is going to get better fuel economy than all those larger mid-size, you know, 2-row SUVs. But overall, I still like the Venza a lot. I love that Toyota took some chances here with this interior and made some bold choices. And I think the interior really is a great design. I hope this design kind of trickles down to future Toyotas as well.
Yeah, it looks so luxurious. It looks so nice. And I just think it has like more of a Lexus feel to it as well. So I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, it's great that they kind of gave it a little bit more of an upmarket feel. But anyway, let us know your thoughts on the interior of the Venza in the comments below. Huge thanks to Toyota for providing us here with this Venza to review for you guys today. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.